guys, I'm Andrea Dunlop, and this is the 7th in my series all about how to launch your book. Today I'm covering 5 key questions to ask yourself when you have a book launch coming up. So previously in this series, I've talked about a variety of marketing and publicity topics, everything from working with in-house teams to planning a book tour, to building a marketing timeline. So go back and check those out if you haven't seen them already. So today's video is inspired by a blog post that I wrote years ago for Jane Friedman's blog. If you don't know Jane Friedman, go check her out. She's an amazing wealth of information on resources on book publishing. So I am kind of updating this advice with these 5 questions. I've been through a couple of book launches and have had chances to reflect on all of these things myself a little bit more. So I'm hoping that these questions can help ground yourself in the experience. I think it's so easy for the excitement of having a book come out to kind of spill over and become anxiety. Okay, so biggest question to ask yourself first is what you want out of the experience. Now, obviously, if we're novelists, most of us want to, sell books, build up readership that's going to be sustainable throughout our career. Those are basic things. But I think the experience of having a book come out into the world means something different personally to all of us. And it's different on every book. For this last book, it was not only what I hoped was a great readable novel, but I was really hoping that We Came Here to Forget would help raise awareness about an issue in the book, Munchausen by Proxy, that has really affected me in my life. And so knowing that that was an aim of a goal of what I wanted to do with the book really helped guide me in my decisions that I made about how to position the book, about the media that I would do and wouldn't do around the book and what I would say about it. And that was really helpful. So I think, whatever it is that you're hoping to accomplish with this book, whatever that intention is, keep that central in your mind. And I think that will help you make decisions along the way, and it will also help you when you're reflecting back on the experience and what it really meant to you in your life. Okay, so the second question is, what are your goals? So if you're thinking about the first question as a really big picture kind of expansive thing, this is more concrete. Do you want to go to 24 book clubs? Do you want to build up a readership of 5,000 via your newsletter that, you can take with you on the next book? Be ambitious, but don't kind of set yourself up for failure, and don't focus on anything that you can't control. I think this is a question of what you can work towards yourself. So don't focus on things like book sales or whether or not your publisher kind of puts you up for XYZ award or distinction. Definitely, focus on the things that you can control with this question and the goals that you can personally accomplish. Okay, so third question is, how much time do you have to spend on marketing? So I've talked a little bit about the sort of marketing things that you can do. I'm going to talk more about sort of in depth about social media marketing as an author in future videos, but a lot of the marketing efforts are going to fall on you as the author. That is the way things are now in book publishing. So definitely, use that to your advantage. Let that be something that's empowering. I think that it is really easy and fun, at least for me, to think about all the really ambitious things that I want to do for a book and kind of make these huge lists. But then you have to, at some point, get practical and think about how much time you have to spend on it, per day, per week around your book launch. So look at everything else that's going on in your life, family, day job, what have you, and really say, ask how much time you can carve out. And maybe that's an hour a week, maybe that's a couple of hours a month to do a monthly newsletter, but whatever it is, have that in your mind so that you can make a plan that's executable and you can be strategic. Okay, so the fourth question is, what's your budget for marketing? So the biggest expenses that you're likely to incur are planning a book tour. If you decide to send yourself on one and the publisher's not covering any of your expenses, obviously that can get pretty pricey. And then hiring a book publicist to, do an outside book publicist to work on your book. Those can be really big expenses. So obviously book tour expenses vary. To hire a good publicist, it usually is somewhere around $10,000 to $15,000 or more. So very pricey. I think it can be very worthwhile. You're never going to see a dollar for dollar return via book sales. So if someone actually has, let me know, because I've never heard of it. But that's not really the way to judge that expense. I think that hiring a publicist or sending yourself on tour, doing kind of those things to make a big splash, especially if it's early in your career or if you have a book that you're really trying to make your breakout book, I think those things can be really worthwhile. But you're not going to see the payoff immediately in sales of that book. That's just not really the right way to measure it. So that said, don't spend money that you don't have hoping that you're going to make up for it in book sales. That's not a good business way of looking at things. So, you know, don't spend that money if it's really going to keep you up at night. It really pains me when I talk to authors who've spent a ton of money on a publicist and they just feel like they are not getting, you know, the return that they hoped for. And so, you know that it's always a risk to spend that money. So if you're really not going to feel good about it, then don't do it. You know, maybe you have something much smaller, you know, much smaller budget that you can allocate towards throwing a really fantastic local event, or, you know, doing some social media ads or something smaller marketing wise. And, you know, just keep in mind that if you don't have budget, there's a lot that you can do. You can make up for in kind of elbow grease, especially if you have more time to spend on your marketing. Okay, so the fifth question is, who is your audience? So we talked a bit about positioning in the last video. So this is this conversation that you're going to be having with your agent and with your publisher, your editor, about who's the audience for the book, where does it fit in the market, what are your comp titles. So that's kind of your jumping off point. You'll know a little bit of that going in, but think really hard about this. I think it's really valuable to think about who your readers are. You know, build up kind of personas in your mind. Like, you know, is this person a mid-career professional with 3 kids who lives in the suburbs, or, you know, is a young single person who lives in the city? And maybe it's both. The great thing about being, you know, a couple of books in is that I've been able to see some of who my readers are, and sometimes that's been surprising and really interesting. But knowing who your readers are, you know, you can use those efforts to, you know, shape your marketing and also target your social media, etc. So be reading lots of books, understand the market, and don't underestimate readers. I think this is something that I've really learned. I think that in book publishing, you know, sometimes we think of readers fitting into these, you know, individual boxes. This person reads romance, this person reads literary fiction, this person reads, you know, science fiction or whatever, but readers are not like that. Readers read cross-genre all the time. This shouldn't be surprising, but I think sometimes we underestimate how much readers are willing to go from one genre to the other and how much their tastes might vary. So be flexible, don't be a snob. All readers are good readers. You know, I'm sure there's exceptions to that. You know, if neo-Nazis are flocking to your work, you might want to think about what's happening with your messaging there. But other than that, you know, your arms should be open to all. So I hope that helps. As always, questions in the comments. Next week, I'm going to be talking about surviving a book launch.